Welcome to TCG.
Hello, and welcome to the Deck Tech. Today you'll be looking at Garruk, son of Yawgmoth. He is 7 converted mana cost with 3 Phyrexian mana. Phyrexian mana is you can pay 2 life or black mana. His abilities are whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on Garruk, and for each black mana in a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay for that mana. So this is a zombie mono black deck. He is built around the deck, and the deck is not built around him. So he's basically in the deck for his abilities to help you synergize for your mana when you need it. So let's take a look. All right, let's start with the first 3 main cards of the deck. So we have Vilis, Broker of Blood. He is an 8/8 with flying. You can play black mana and pay 2 life. Each creature gets a -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So every time you're going to pay for your Phyrexian mana with Garruk, that's going to trigger, and you're going to draw that many cards. You have Dreadshade. You can play black mana. Dreadshade gets +1/+1 until end of turn. He's a 3/3 for 3. Then we have Font of Agonies. Whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters on Font of Agonies. You may pay 2, remove 4 blood counters from Font of Agonies to destroy a target creature. Now let's take a look at the zombies that we're going to use for the deck. First we have Relentless Dead, which has Menace. Whenever Relentless Dead dies, you may pay 1 black mana. If you do, return it to its owner's hand. Then when Relentless Dead dies, you may pay X mana. If you do, return another target zombie creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then we have Zombie Master. It's going to give all your zombies gain Regenerate for 1 black mana, and they have Swamp Walk. Then we have Cryptbreaker, where you pay 2, discard a card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Then you can tap 3 untapped zombies you control to draw a card and lose 1 life. Then we have Entrails Fester, which I feel is an underrated card. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a creature card in any graveyard from the game. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Entrails Fester. If you don't, tap Entrails. Midnight Reaper. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you, and you get to draw a card. Foulmire Knight. It's a 1/1 with Death Touch, but it also has the Adventure side, which is an instant. You may draw a card and lose 1 life. Then we have Geth, Lord of the Vault. It has Intimidate. You can pay X and black mana. Put a target artifact or creature card with converted mana cost X from your opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control tapped. Then that player puts the top X cards of their library into their graveyard. Then we have Grave Titan with 6/6 with Death Touch. Whenever Grave Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Then we have Rotting Regisaurs for 3 converted mana cost, a 7/6. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card. Then we have Murderous Rider. It's a lifelink. When Murderous Rider dies, put it on the bottom of your owner's library. Then it has the Adventure, which is destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then you lose 2 life. Then we have Grey Merchant of Asphoid. When Grey Merchant of Asphoid enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So this is going to be good for all the life that you're paying from Garruk. Then we have Undead Warchief. Zombie spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. The zombie creatures you control get +2/+1. This next set is going to pump up your zombies. So we have Cemetery Reaper, which other zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. Then you can tap it for 3 mana, exile target creature card from a graveyard, and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Then we have Lord of the Accursed. Other zombies you control get +1/+1. Then you can pay 2 black mana, tap it, all zombies gain menace until end of turn. Then we have Death Baron. Skeletons you control and other zombies you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. Then we have Liliana's Mastery. The zombies you control get +1/+1. When Liliana's Mastery enters the battlefield, create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Now let's look at a combo that we're going to use in the deck. So we have Contamination, During your upkeep, sacrifice a creature or sacrifice Contamination. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, it produces black mana instead of its normal type of amount. Now, this is going to affect all players in the game, even your opponents. So, if your opponents aren't playing black and they don't have any other way to cast any other spells because they only have black mana, this is going to be beneficial early and later in the game. Now, in order to sacrifice those creatures, we're going to have Bitterblossom. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 black fairy creature token with flying, which is definitely going to help you with your sackage for Contamination. And we have Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler can't block, but you may cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. So there's plenty of zombies in here to keep bringing them back every turn or every main phase. And if you're out of mana, you have Garruk to help you pay with the 2 life to bring him back as well. Alright, let's look at some of the cards that's going to help boost up your mana. So we have Liliana of the Dark Realms, which are +1 is search your library for a swamp card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. -3, target creature gets +X or -X until end of turn, where X is the number of swamps you control. Then her -6, you get an emblem with swamps you control, you tap for 4 mana. Then let's look at Crypt Ghast, which whenever you tap a swamp for mana, you add an additional mana to your mana pool. Also the extort cost, which is for 1 mana, you can do 1 damage for each opponent, and you gain that much life. So you would pay your 2 life for Garruk's ability, and if you have at least 3 opponents, you will gain 3 life. Bubbling Muck. Until end of turn, whenever a player taps mana for a swamp for mana, it produces an additional mana. Then you have Dark Ritual, which pays for 1 for 3 mana. Now let's look at some of the cards that can help gain you life. With the previous cards you just saw, you're not going to really have to focus too much on Garruk's abilities, but it's a good option when you can. So we have Whip of Erebos, which it's an artifact. Creatures you control have lifelink. Then we have From Under the Floorboards. You can create 3 tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, and you gain 3 life. If this spell's madness cost was paid, instead create X of those tokens, and you gain X life. Then we have Accentuate. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain life to the life lost this way. Then we had Severed Strands. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Destroy target creature an opponent controls. First we have Razakith's Right for 5 converted mana cost. Search your library for a card and then put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. It has cycling for 1 black. Discard this card to draw a card. Then we have Diabolic Intent for 2 converted mana cost. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then we have Demonic Tutor for 2 converted mana cost. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Now this one's a little more expensive, but if you wanted to substitute it for Diabolic Tutor for 4 converted mana cost, it does the same exact thing and it's considerably cheaper. Next we have Runescarred Demon for 7 converted mana. It's a 6/6 with flying. When Runescarred Demon enters the battlefield, search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then we have Scheming Cemetery for 1. Choose 2 target players. Each of them searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top. Then we have Wishclaw Talisman, which is a little debatable. You have 2 converted mana. When it enters the battlefield with 3 counters on it. You may pay 1 colorless to tap it. Remove a wish counter from Wishclaw Talisman. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. An opponent gains control of this artifact. Activate this ability only during your turn. So you may be able to use it, but your opponents won't be able to activate it in response. They have to wait for their turn. Now let's look at some of the removal we're going to have in the deck. So we have Torment of Hellfire. Repeat this process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. Then we have Bontu's Last Reckoning. Destroy all creatures, lands you control don't untap during your next untap phase. Now this one's good because there's only 3 converted mana costs. The only downside is the fact that you don't get to untap on your untap step. Then we have Witch's Vengeance for 3 converted mana. It's a sorcery. Creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3 until end of turn. So this one's going to help protect your zombies when needed. Then we have Mutilate for 4 converted mana. All creatures get -1 until end of turn for each swamp that you control. Now this deck is going to have mostly all basic swamps to help trigger this ability at its fullest. Now let's look at the same thing, but with the creature side. So we're going to have Royal Assassin for 3 converted mana. You get to tap them to destroy target tapped creature. So you would want to trigger this after your opponent's attack phase. Then we have Phyrexian Obliterator for 4 converted mana. It has Trample. It's a 5/5. Whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source controller sacrifices that many permanents. So if your opponents are swinging with the 10/10 and you block with Phyrexian Obliterator, even though he's a 5/5, that damage is still dealt to Phyrexian Obliterator, so they would have to sacrifice 10 permanents. Big Game Hunter. When Big Game Hunter enters the battlefield, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. It can't be regenerated. It also has a madness cost for 1 black. Alright, the next we got Buried Alive. And these next 3 or 4 cards are going to help utilize Buried Alive to its full potential. So we have search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. We have Gruesome Menagerie. Choose a creature card with converted mana cost 1 in your graveyard, then do the same for creature cards with converted mana cost 2 and 3, and return those cards to the battlefield. Then we have Exhume. Each player puts a creature card from his or her graveyard onto the battlefield. Then we have Doomed Necromancer. For 1 black, tap, sacrifice Doomed Necromancer, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then we have Beacon of Unrest. Put target artifact or creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle Beacon of Unrest to its owner's library. Then we have Animate Dead, which is an enchantment. Then we have Animate Dead, which is an enchantment. You get to enchant a creature card in a graveyard, then put it onto the battlefield. But if Animate Dead is destroyed, then the creature has to be sacrificed as well. Then we'll be playing this combo. It allows you, every time your opponent searches their library, they lose 13 life. So we have Omniculus, the Unshackled. It's a flying trample with a 4/4. Whenever an opponent searches his or her library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. Whenever another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on Omniculus. Then we have Maralen of the Mornsong. Players can't draw cards. This includes you. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 13 life. Searches his or her library for a card, put it into his or her hand, then shuffles his or her library. Now your opponents will be losing 13 life, but you will be losing 3 life. Maralen of the Mornsong will automatically allow them to draw cards, which will make them lose 13 life. Granted, they'll be searching for what they need to eliminate these creatures, but if you can keep them out and keep them going, it does a lot of damage. These next 3 cards are an absolute must for the deck. So we have Sheroldred, which is a 7 converted mana cost for a 6/6 with Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. And then we have Dread Presence. 4 converted mana cost and he's a 3/3. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. You draw a card and lose 1 life. Dread Presence deals 2 damage to any target, and you gain 2 life. And then we have Darkness, which is basically Fog, but for black. It costs 1 black mana, it's an instant, and it says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Alright, now let's take a look at the 6 non-basic lands that we're going to put into the deck. So we have Geier Reach for card draw. We have Reliquary Tower for no maximum hand size. We're going to have Mutavolt for that extra creature that we need. Temple of the False Gods, which allows us to tap for 2 colorless mana. And then we're going to have Unholy Grotto and Witch's Cottage, which allows us to put a creature card from our graveyard on top of our library. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and the deck list will be listed below. Please feel free to comment for any questions or concerns about the deck. What upgrades would you have done? Would you have taken it the zombie route, or would you have done it differently and make the deck around Garruk instead of Garruk around the deck? Thank you for watching Tapcast Go.